Your little craft business is worth at least $10 million now, and we built it together as a family," my mother-in-law, Patricia, announced while adjusting her Hermes scarf in the mediator's office. The same woman who had called my handmade jewelry cute hobby pieces was now claiming she'd been instrumental in building my company, Meridian Designs, from a garage startup to a nationally recognized luxury brand. What she didn't know was that I'd been recording every belittling comment, every dismissive email, and every family dinner where she'd mocked my playing with beads for the past 7 years. Patricia's right. My soon-to-be ex-husband, James, chimed in, his cologne overwhelming in the small conference room. "I gave up partnership at my father's firm to support your dream. My family invested time, money, connections." "Invested?" I interrupted, keeping my voice steady despite my racing pulse. "Is that what we're calling the $200 your mother gave me for my birthday in 2016? The same money she specifically said was for me to buy some real jewelry, instead of making those gaudy pieces." My lawyer, Diane Winters, sat beside me like a coiled spring, her manila folder thick with documents. She'd told me to let them talk first, to let them reveal their hand. The strategy was working better than I'd imagined. "Don't be dramatic, Serena," Patricia waved her manicured hand dismissively. "We're talking about substantial contributions. James worked nights to support you. I introduced you to influential people. Richard provided business guidance. Richard told me to quit and become a dental hygienist," I said, referencing my father-in-law's repeated career advice. "He said jewelry making was a phase educated women went through before settling down." Regardless of past conversations, James's lawyer, Mr. Pemberton, interjected, his tone suggesting he'd rather be anywhere else. The fact remains that Mr. Westbrook gave up significant career opportunities to support his wife's venture. The family's contributions, both financial and social, warrant consideration in the asset division. Patricia leaned forward, her eyes glinting with the same satisfaction I'd seen when she'd announced, at my product launch party, that she'd never wear costume jewelry. "We want 50% of Meridian Designs. It's only fair, considering James sacrificed his career trajectory for this marriage." Sacrificed. The word tasted bitter. James had been fired from his father's firm for losing 3 major clients, but we'd agreed to tell people he'd left voluntarily. Even now, I kept that secret, though I wasn't sure why. "My client," Diane finally spoke, her voice crisp as autumn air, "has some documents that might clarify the ownership structure of Meridian Designs." She pulled out a thick legal document, its pages crisped despite being 7 years old. The partnership agreement I'd insisted on when Patricia had made her investment and demanded input on my business decisions. "Page 4, Section 3B, Diane directed, sliding copies across the table. "Would you like to read it aloud, Mr. Pemberton, or shall I?" James's lawyer adjusted his glasses, scanning the text. His face went through several color changes, faint to red to an alarming shade of pale. "What does it say?" Patricia demanded, snatching the document from her lawyer's hands. I knew every word by heart. I'd reviewed it monthly for 7 years, a reminder of the best legal advice I'd ever received. Any dissolution of marriage between Serena Meridian and James Westbrook, I recited from memory, triggers an immediate buyout clause of all Westbrook family interests in Meridian Designs LLC, calculated at the initial investment value of $200, plus standard annual interest of 3%. That's not possible," James sputtered. "Mom, you said you were a partner. You said you had equity." Patricia's face cycled through emotions, confusion, rage, then a desperate attempt at composure. "This is fraud. She tricked me into signing. You insisted on a partnership agreement," I reminded her. "You demanded documentation of your substantial investment for tax purposes. I believe your exact words were, 'I need to protect my interests in your little project.'" Diane produced another document. "We also have the email thread where Mrs. Westbrook insisted on formal documentation, against my client's initial wishes to keep things informal. You'll note her message on page 3. I don't trust handshake deals, especially with creative types who don't understand real business. I watched Patricia's Botox-frozen forehead attempt to furrow. She'd been so eager to document her investment, so insistent on having paperwork that proved her involvement. She'd never bothered to read what she was signing, too confident in her assumption that a girl who made jewelry couldn't possibly understand legal documents. Furthermore, Diane continued, producing a financial statement. Meridian Design's current valuation stands at $12.3 million. Per the partnership agreement, the Westbrook family's buyout equals their initial investment plus 7 years of interest, totaling $246.18. This is ridiculous. Richard Westbrook, my father-in-law, burst through the conference room door. He'd clearly been listening outside. We made that company. Our connections, our social circle. Your social circle mocked my work, I said quietly. I have screenshots of Patricia's Facebook posts calling my designs crafts fair quality. I have the group text where you all laughed about my pipe dream of getting into Nordstrom. That was before Patricia started. Before Oprah featured my Byzantine collection in her holiday favorites. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a saved screenshot. This is from 3 months after that feature. You wrote, and I quote, "Just because Oprah has questionable taste doesn't mean Serena's hobby is a real business." The room fell silent. Even James looked stunned, probably because he'd been included in those group texts, but had never defended me. Not once. You recorded our private conversations? Richard demanded. Screenshots aren't recordings, Diane corrected. They're contemporaneous evidence of the family's actual opinion of the business they now claim to have built. James worked 60-hour weeks to support. James worked at his PlayStation. I interrupted. I have 7 years of credit card statements showing his primary purchases were gaming equipment, golf clubs, and bar tabs. Meanwhile, I have receipts for 16-hour days in my workshop, booth fees for craft fairs you all refused to attend, and material costs I covered with my savings from teaching jewelry making classes. I pulled out a binder I'd prepared months ago when I first filed for divorce. Page-by-page documentation of every expense, every hour worked, every sale. Would you like to see the weekend? James claimed he was helping with a big order, but was actually in Vegas for Todd's bachelor party. James's face crumbled. He'd forgotten I knew about that lie. The prenup? Patricia said desperately. There must be something in the prenup about business assets. The prenup you insisted on to protect James's future inheritance? Diane smiled. That prenup specifically excludes any business ventures started during the marriage from marital assets. Your idea, I believe, to prevent Serena from claiming any part of the Westbrook family business. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Then I remembered Patricia's toast at our wedding, where she joked about hoping James' phase of marrying beneath his status would pass quickly. This isn't just about money, I said, surprising myself by speaking. You all spent 7 years telling me I was wasting my time. Patricia, you gave jewelry from my competitors as gifts to family members. Richard, you introduced me at parties as James's wife, who makes costume jewelry. James, you scheduled golf games during my trunk shows and told me they weren't important enough to reschedule. We were trying to protect you from disappointment, Patricia said weakly. No, you were trying to protect your son from being married to someone you saw as unsuccessful. The minute Meridian Designs took off, suddenly you were all investors and partners and supporters. Diane pulled out one final document. There's also the matter of the loan. What loan? James asked, looking genuinely confused. The $40,000 my client loaned Mr. Westbrook from her business account to cover his gambling debts. The ones from his sure-thing poker games with his business school buddies. Patricia's face went white. James doesn't gamble. Online poker isn't gambling, apparently, I said. At least, that's what he told me when he begged me not to tell you. The loan agreement stipulates repayment upon dissolution of marriage with interest. You set us up, Richard accused, pointing a shaking finger at me. You planned this from the beginning. I protected myself from the beginning, I corrected. Every time you made me feel small, I documented it. Every time Patricia suggested I should be more supportive of James' real career, I saved the email. Every legal document you insisted on to protect your family's interests actually protected mine, because I read them and you didn't. I'll destroy you, Patricia hissed, abandoning all pretense of civility. I'll tell everyone what kind of person you really are. No one in our social circle will buy from you. Your social circle already doesn't buy from me. I laughed, actually laughed. My client base is women who support women-owned businesses. Women who've been told their dreams are cute hobbies. Women who build empires while their in-laws plan their failures. We'll sue for fraud, Richard announced. On what grounds? Diane asked mildly. That your family signed legal documents without reading them. That you assumed a jewelry maker couldn't understand business. That you documented your minimal investment and are now bound by that documentation. She stood, gathering her papers. My client is prepared to complete the buyout immediately. $246.18 will be transferred to an account of your choosing. The $40,000 loan comes due in 30 days, per the agreement Mr. Westbrook signed. $40,000, James whispered. Serena, I don't have $40,000. Then I suggest you ask your parents, I said, standing to leave. After all, family helps family, right? Just like they helped build my business. As I reached the door, Patricia called out one last time. You'll regret this, Serena. You'll end up alone. I turned back, thinking of the team of 12 women I now employed, the teenage girls I mentored in jewelry making, the customers who sent photos wearing my designs at their life celebrations. Patricia, I said gently, I was alone when I was married to your son. Now I'm free. The last thing I heard before the door closed was James asking his parents for a loan and Richard demanding to know about the gambling. That evening, I sat in my workshop, my real workshop, not the garage space where Meridian Designs had been born out of necessity and spite. The space hummed with activity as my team prepared for our biggest holiday season yet. How did it go? Asked Maria, my production manager, who'd started as my first hire when she'd been laid off from a corporate job at 55. They got their $200, I said, pulling on my work apron. Plus interest. The room erupted in laughter. They all knew the story, had lived through the years of Patricia's visits where she'd inspect our work and declare it almost professional quality. I picked up my tools and began working on a new piece, a phoenix rising from abstract flames, wings spread wide. It would be the centerpiece of our spring collection. Emergence. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then curiosity won. This is James. Mom and Dad won't give me the money. Can we work out a payment plan? I screenshotted it and sent it to Diane. Let her handle it. I had jewelry to make, a business to run, and a life to live. 7 years ago, I'd signed that partnership agreement with shaking hands, terrified Patricia would see through my bravado and realize I'd had a lawyer review every word. I'd been so scared of their wealth, their connections, their certainty that I was temporary. Now I understood what my grandmother had told me before she died. Baby girl, the only thing temporary is their ability to make you feel small. Your talent, your determination, that's forever. I looked around my workshop, at the women creating beauty with their hands, at the orders stacked high for shipment, at the business I'd built despite every sneer and dismissive comment. Patricia had been right about one thing at the mediation. Family had helped build this business. Just not the family she'd meant. The family I'd chosen, the women who believed in my vision when blood relatives had laughed at it. The phoenix pendant took shape under my tools, each careful strike of the hammer an echo of every time I'd been told I wasn't enough. The finished piece would sell for thousands, but its real value was in what it represented. Sometimes the best partnership agreements are the ones that plan for the ending. And sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding despite those who bet against you. $246.18. That's what 7 years of belittlement had cost them. That, and a son who'd finally have to face his gambling problem without my business account to bail him out. I smiled, finished the Phoenix's final wing, and prepared for my brightest season yet.